Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today, La Pikachu Civic is back. Unfortunately, not for good reasons. This car has been running good for him for a couple months now. He's been, in the bottom 11s with this car. I think he might have went like 11.0 in the quarter on the tune-up that we gave him the last time. He wants to go a little bit faster, but he has been learning the car a little bit and ended up breaking an axle. And ever since he broke the axle, he had issues where he'd be going down the track and the car would randomly hit launch control and it would just early rev limiter. And I assumed because the speed sensor, when we tuned it initially, had issues where it the speed signal would kind of come in and out, and that's not good, because when you run boost by gear like we installed in this car, it relies on that speed signal to get the reading for what gear it's in. So if I command 25 pounds of boost in second or third gear, it needs to be in those speed parameters that are set up in the Honda in order to run that amount of boost. If for some reason the speed signal is lost, say the speedo is reading 55 miles an hour and all of a sudden it dips down to 0, it's going to revert to first gear boost, which first gear boost is, like 10 pounds or something like that. So the boost is going to come in and out like this, and then it's also going to, if the speedo goes to 0, it's going to think it's at a standstill, which is how I usually set up the launch control on these cars. As soon as you roll out, past 2 or 3 miles an hour, then the launch control is off. The launch control only works when the speed sensor is at 0. So when you have speed sensor issues like that, the launch control isn't working properly and it's going to activate when you don't want it to, and the boost by gear is all over the place. So I figured, easy fix, just bring it by and I'll check the wiring and I'll check the sensor. So this is the speed sensor that is in the transmission, and this is a replacement one that I just put in. Still the same issue. So I checked the wiring, and on the wiring for the speed sensor, and he went as far as putting a new speed sensor plug, because a lot of times these plugs will get corroded and stuff like that, where the pins just don't make good connection onto the sensor. So I figured either the connections were dirty or corroded. So he put a new plug on, and I pulled some of the loom and tape off of this just to check the connections, and they were all good. So the sensors here, you have a ground, which is on the far right. You have a 12 volt signal, and then you have a 5 volt signal that goes to the ECU on the far left. And I verified good ground. I grounded it right to the transmission. I grounded it to the ECU ground. Everything is good with the ground. We have good continuity. The center has rock solid 12 volts, and the far left has 5 volt. And I checked continuity from the sensor to the ECU, which is pin like B10 or something like that. And we have continuity everywhere, and the speed signal is working in the car. Unfortunately, the speed signal is doing what I'll show you here in a second, but it is coming up, and as soon as I give it load, as soon as I give it throttle, if I'm very easy on the throttle, the speed sensor reads totally fine. If I give it more throttle, give her some beans, the speedo lessens. So it goes down to like 18 miles an hour when I'm going 60. So it's like a really weird issue. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Come to find out, I talked to my buddy Kurt Miller, and he said that he's seen this a couple times. The differential gear, where the speed sensor gets its pickup from. I have a transmission right here, I'll show you. Maybe not on this one. But way down in here, I'll insert a clip with my phone of the gear that sits on the end of the differential. This one is cracked. and broken and is no longer fitting snug on the differential. Because it has a crack in it, it's no longer a true circle, it's oblonged, so it slips on the differential. It doesn't stay connected. We could take the transmission out and fix that gear, put a new one on, or like JB welded or something like that, or I could try to do it in the car, but I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think it's gonna hold. And this guy only wants to make a couple more passes this year, so we're gonna just put it on full send. I'm gonna activate the launch control off of the e-brake instead of the vehicle speed. So as soon as the e-brake is down, then the launch control will shut off. And the boost is going to be whatever we can make in every gear. And he's going to have to get good at managing the pedal. So that's just kind of a quick fix that we're gonna do for now because we don't really have another option. I don't have the time to do the transmission fix right now. And you know, there's not too much time left in the season, unfortunately, up here in Wisconsin. So we're just gonna full send it. And then over the winter, he's gonna bring it back and we'll fix that Speedo gear. But I thought that was interesting and I wanted to share that with you guys. And I'll take a clip of what the Speedo is actually doing on the data log here in a second. And then we're gonna set everything up for full send mode. See what, if he can get into the 10s this year. I think he'll be able to, just full sending it. I think it'll still go at 10. Alright guys, so I got it making good power, but I think this is a B16 transmission, and it really doesn't want to rev on the dyno that well. Like, it doesn't have enough load for this kind of power. So I'm going to have to do a 5th gear pull, and hopefully get the boost lined out. That was like 22 pounds. That was a little spicy. .530 horsepower though. Wow. 530. But on the data log, the Speedo just went flat, or the, oh, I guess that's not the, no, I guess it's fine. Yeah, it doesn't look bad on the dyno itself. 143 miles an hour in 5th gear there. But the speed sensor threw me off because the speed sensor pegged at like 150 miles an hour, and I know it wasn't actually going that fast. So yeah, dude, 530 horsepower on 29 pounds of boost. So I think we're gonna leave it there. What an animal this little Pikachu is. It's just kind of terrifying on the inside of the car doing 145 miles an hour in this thing, because it's gutted, everything rattling and shaking, and I just don't feel comfortable spinning at any higher RPM on the dyno. If I could stay in fourth, but it's spinning on the dyno in fourth, and I can't really get a good load to tune it that well in fourth because it makes, you know, a lot of power. Yeah, that speed was 145 miles an hour. Usually I cap Hondas at like $120 on the dyno because, you know, it's just sketchy. I'm growing into it though. I'm growing into be more of a man and just sending shit, but I would never want something to come apart at that speed on the dyno. So it's I'm a little gun shy. On a rear wheel drive setup, you know, I don't have an issue spinning 150, 160 miles an hour on the dyno, but with a little gutted Civic like this, it's kind of, yeah. But it rips nonetheless. This thing is a freaking beast. And on this same boost level, if I had stayed in it, you can see the power is just climbing like a mofo. It would make, I bet you 550 plus easily, because this car spins 9,000 RPM if we zoom out here. So at 9,000, if we follow the same path, I mean, we would be easy 550, easy 560 probably, maybe even 570, maybe 600. I don't know. It sucks because I just don't feel comfortable, but I know that the car's tuned in well, and he can push it at the track on his own time. But not me. So I made it happen, and it's cool. We made the speed sensor shit work with the with this down here. So I ran a wire from the ground switch off of the e-brake, so now that runs to the service connector D5. Yeah, here's the data log, and I was showing you the speed sensor is the blue line. So the speed sensor is this blue line. You can see it's just like maxed out, and it just like shot up like crazy from 40 to 130 in a split second because that gear is not hanging in there. But our tack stayed smooth the whole time, you know, flat. It wasn't jumping up or anything. So that was 28.5 pounds of boost, guys. That's pretty awesome. And it is boost creeping a little bit, but so I had to go through here, and I'm setting our fixed duty cycle probably at like 47. I might splash, you know, 12 degrees of timing we're running here. Just gonna give it a little bit more fuel way up top, just to be extra safe. Yeah, I'm really curious what this thing will run now, because it's probably going to be a freaking animal. 47 there, and it's going to be fixed because we don't have a speed input, unfortunately. But I'm just making it happen, Cap'n, for this guy, you know. VTEC is speed sensor is 0 because we don't have a speed there, and then the launch control D4 is the service connector switch. That's the pin I used because it can take a ground switch. If you use the brake switch right here, it goes off of power, so we don't have power going to it. We have a ground signal. So D4 is two-step settings for the track, and when the e-brake is up, it works, and then when you drop it down, it stops working. I'll set this at like a low RPM just to demonstrate. So So when my hand goes up like that, you can see the launch is working. My hand is up, and watch when I drop it. That's gonna work good, because you're supposed to use the e-brake to preload anyways. So let's see if I can show you anything earlier in that data log here, up where the speed sensor is cutting out. Yeah, this whole time the speedo's at 0. And I'm driving, and I'm throttling into it. This is 100% throttle. 0 speed sensor. Before I got into the throttle, it was reading. You see this? And then as I increase the throttle, the VSS goes down to nothing. Oh well, you know, busted vehicle speed sensor. You can't really do much about it. So that's it, guys. Nasty little Pikachu. 550 plus horsepower guaranteed. Wild little ride. Absolutely wild. So it's gonna rip. I hope he goes fast and stays safe. And you guys have a great night and a better tomorrow. We'll see you later.